Well, hello again, Wargame Marinos. Welcome back to Deck Spec as we're talking Recon today. The eyes on the battlefield are important, and it comes down to you to help your friends, your allies, and your units be able to see everything on the field. Recon is one of the most difficult things to master in this game, and even I've not been able to do it yet. There are some tricks of the trade when it comes to Recon, and sometimes Recon doesn't always just see hidden units, but can sometimes expand your field of vision, and of course can help to capture or at least look at those flanks to make sure the enemy doesn't get there. So there's multiple different types of recon. We'll go through them all. America has a very vast wallet when it comes to different types of things to spend points on. Boy, indeed, does it ever. We'll start with infantry first, and then we'll work our way up to some of the heaviest recon vehicles that the Americans have. Keep in mind, we want you to tell a friend about Wargame Red Dragon. Keep an eye out on this channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, everything should be good. So let's get right into it then with the Rangers. All right, so you got a group of Rangers here. Recon, by the way, is indicated by this little set of binoculars. Just right of their name on the right side of the screen, you see that just above the Carl Gustaf launcher? You have the little binoculars. They have advanced vision, and they can travel faster than most troops. You can see here the ground speed of the Recon here is 27 kilometers per hour, as where most other infantry units would be a lot slower. The great thing about Rangers is that they're also a really good special forces unit. You don't have to just bring Delta Force out to cause the enemy trouble. With 6 Carl Gustaf launchers, 25-point Rangers behind enemy lines could devastate everything they've prepared. If you take out an AA unit and a command, 25 points could suddenly turn into 125 for you, depending on what you destroy. So the Rangers, just like regular infantry, come out in the Humvees, the Hueys, the Blackhawks, and the Chinooks. And I want to remind you as well that for purposes of deck spec, we're not exactly making a deck just yet. We're just going over the basics of what these units do, what they're capable of, what different types, like for instance all the Rangers and everything here, and exactly how to handle them. So we're not making a deck just yet with these units, we're just talking about them. And really, the best thing about Rangers is that the nicest thing about the Rangers is that really you can bring them out in any vehicle. There's really no, I wouldn't recommend any restrictions here. M35s, you could just keep them with regular infantry and use them to scout for incoming enemy vehicles. Humvees you could use to quickly get behind enemy lines. Same with the Hueys. There's only an M2 Browning on that, so keep that in mind. You also get the UH-60, which has twin M134 miniguns on it, and also the Chinook, which has added armor, and I believe it actually may be faster than the Chinook. 270, or I'm sorry, the Blackhawk. Oh, it is slower, but it has a little bit more armor. So yeah, go ahead and take a look at those units there. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, so Rangers are very lightly armored, though, or rather, well, they're a big squad. I think there's, what, 10 men there? And unfortunately, though, they've only got 6 rounds and no heavy machine gun with them. So these are units you're going to want to keep in cover, keep them in the woods, keep them out of sight. And if the enemy sees them, these are great units for taking out like hidden AA in the woods. Not just units like vehicles, but a few Fliegerfoss or something in the enemy woods. You're probably more likely to engage the Igla or Strela 3. That's what you're going to want to engage. So keep in mind here, you've only got 2,400 rounds and you've only got 6 rockets. So these units you're going to want to use repeatedly. Spread them out, don't get them killed. I would never call out recon in more than one group at a time. Even with Rangers, if they're just going through the woods, you want to spread them out because they have great line of sight and they're very, very powerful. So the Rangers are some really good units here. I mean, really, it's just incredible. There's some really equivalent units to these as well. For instance, the British have some that actually have AA as well. So there's other units that have different types of weapons. These, for instance, are a great anti-ground force, but other factions have AA weapons on them, and I think there might be, I think there actually might have some machine guns with them as well. So keep that in mind as you're bringing them to the battlefield. Again, with 25 points, this should always be a must-have in anyone's deck. Depending on whether you bring in the M35 or the Humvee is up to you, and I would use any of the aircraft for specialty attacks. Let's move on to very light vehicles now, the old favorite of ours from European Escalation, the Mutt. The Mutt is a 30-point quick boy who can see pretty much anything on the field with no armaments. It's going to be basically really quick to go over him. 80 off-road, 150 on-road, 65 liter. Basically that fuel capacity, like you're probably never going to run out of fuel with one of these boys. If you were to drive up the highway to Oslo and then back down and then up again, you'd probably make it 2.5 ways before you had to refuel. Bad, I mean, it's not a unit that you're going to want to drive all around the field with, but it's basically like taking these Rangers with no armament, which means you can easily hide that unit somewhere. Yeah, definitely. Step up from there is the Humvee, which is a little bit faster. As you can see, he can do 90, and he's also armed with an M134 minigun. Let's go ahead and compare some of these things to what the the Mark 19 has. Mark 19 actually has a grenade launcher, so it's basically the same vehicle with a different attachment. And as you can see there, the 40mm frag rounds has 200, and that's really great at suppression. So you can, with the minigun or with the Mark 19, you can hide these around cities and again stop infantry pushes into the city. And it can work outside defense while also detecting enemy units. These are great against light enemy units. They're basically the same thing. Just keep in mind, Humvee a little bit faster than Mutt. There's a little bit more speed to them. Off-road just by 10, and the armament, of course, is really good. All right, we'll step it up then to armored cavalry units, which have, actually, you know what? I think we'll go up to the V150, because that's pretty much, we'll keep it wheeled, and then we'll go tracked. So, oh, you know what? I should mention the M151A2, the FAV. This is basically the Mutt that's been pimped out. This is pretty much like Desert Rats from World War II. Let's get him a little closer to us. So what this unit basically is it's the Mutt with a couple machine guns on it. And just like the Rangers, if you were able to sneak this behind enemy lines, you could definitely take out an enemy command and multiple, who knows, Strelaz or something like that, just with this unit. For 45 points, it's heavily armored, or rather heavily armed with a lot of things that can shoot through armor. Exceptional optics on it, by the way. That is something you're going to want to keep an eye out for. I should have mentioned that earlier. Optics for most units are exceptional. The Rangers have very good optics. The FAV has exceptional optics, so it actually has a little bit better sight. Maybe, you could pretend that it has a bigger radio on it or something so it can broadcast further. Whatever you want to say. The Humvees also have very good. So the FAV not only has weapons, but also has exceptional optics, which means it can see and identify enemy units from a further range. So sometimes you'll see enemy units moving in the back that are black, and unless you're a good player, you can't tell what they are. If you get the FAV, you'll be able to possibly get a better eye on what the enemy is bringing up, or at least they'll be able to better identify it. Let's move up to wheeled vehicles now. The V150, or the I guess the whole thing is called V150, but the entire series is a really interesting series because it's what I like about the German recons is that they're fast and they have guns on them, and particularly an autocannon. But for the Americans, the V150 starting off has an M240 on it, which is just a 7.62 machine guns on it. So what it is it's got good optics, it can move very quickly, 80 kilometers an hour, and it has a little bit of armor to it, which means it can really sustain some punishment, a little bit of punishment before it needs to get out of town. And also any type of like artillery strikes. If you're expecting the enemy, you should probably bring the V150 to help hold them back. The great thing about the V150 is that across the board, it has all the same specs until we get up to the LAV, which is something else, and we'll go over that in a minute. But the V150 is exactly the same except for the armament on top. As you can see, the V150 20mm has a 20mm cannon, so again that can rip through enemy infantry, and that can also rip through enemy tanks and transports, and also the machine gun will do some damage as well. That's an M60 on top rather than an M240. 35 points for stepping it up for 5 points. You get an autocannon and an extra a better machine gun, I'd say. It doesn't look like there's any difference between those. Actually not. The M240 is actually a little better, faster rate of fire on that, and a lower accuracy. So V150 is great for infantry. The 20mm is great for infantry and also light vehicles. Speaking of light vehicles, let's step it up then to the 76mm. That's basically a Sherman turret on top of there. Not exactly, but it's got that caliber gun. Accuracy on it is 3, so don't expect to kill anything all day. But again, if you run this behind enemy lines and you find a command and you get close, guess who's taking it out? It's going to be you. The BMP-1s could probably be taken out by this very easily as well. Again, if you have a couple of these down the road, you're definitely going to hinder enemy progress as you kind of get behind them, and especially if you hold it on hold fire and come up behind them, you can definitely kind of tail an enemy group and find out where they're coming from and where they're going. All right, the biggest and baddest of the V150s is the 90mm, very similar to the V150. I'm sorry, the V150-76, but it's just got a 90mm cannon on it. Accuracy is also very increased here as well. No difference to road speed or strength or anything. Just keeping an eye on that main gun. And M240s are only available for the first version. So again, this is going to be actually, you know what, the HE power on this is 3 as well. 8 on the AP, not so bad there. Definitely not bad at all. But the AP power on the 76mm is 3. And it has the 76mm can fire 2100. This can fire 1925, but can definitely pierce better armor. In fact, you could probably be able to kill some T-64s with this or something if you see the enemy coming and this fires and kills a couple of enemy units before it dies. It served its purpose for 40 points. If it can make 100, it's definitely worth your while on the battlefield. All right, let's step it up to the biggest and baddest of wheeled vehicles now. We've got our LAV-25 Scout. It's basically an LAV that's been turned into a Scout unit. It's very similar to the regular LAV, except it's double the points. Those are usually 25 at this moment, but this one costs 50. You got a 25mm Bushmaster, which is the same that's mounted on the Bradleys, and I believe the Bradley Scout even has that as well. Medium size, good optics, and 100 kilometers per hour makes this a nice unit that you can keep up with your Marines and also any of your quick moving units at the start. This, of course, can help detect any type of aircraft coming in. It's not bad to bring Recon in with your initial attack, especially since Recon can also detect aircraft and helicopters, and it can keep this guy yours. Again, this is available to the Marines. I don't think it's Marine specific, of course, because we've just chosen a regular deck, but there you have it. So, very cool unit. Should be amphibious, by the way, in Wargame Red Dragon. So this is definitely going to be worth a hell of a lot more in the future, not in points, but in value. That is for sure. Let's bring it over to tracked vehicles now. We'll start with the M113 Cav vehicle. Yeah, this is a bad boy right here. It's an M113 with a ton of machine guns on it. There's left and right firing machine guns and a M2 Browning that can fire straight ahead. Built in 1965, so obviously a Vietnam era weapon. 70 kilometers an hour and can do, let's see, autonomy allows it to go 480 kilometers. So not the greatest, not the worst. Definitely going to chew through infantry. If you fear an enemy passing through a forest, you could definitely put light riflemen with this, and you have the entire sector locked down. It's the M113 ACAV from America. All right, so next up is the M114A2, which is slightly different. It is similar to the command that the Americans have, except it's a recon. Think of this as an M113 with just a bunch of more armor and a better weapon system on it, and a little bit more fuel. As you can see, the armor Cav had 360 and can go 70. This has 420 and can go 60. So not as fast, but again, this could chew through any type of initial push. If you're fearful of that, you've got a 20mm HS-820 right on top that can take out both aircraft and light enemy units. So I've not used this too much. I have nothing against it. I don't have much to say about it other than that window on the back is cool as hell. But anyway, this gives you 360 view of the battlefield and good for 30 points. That's not too bad. Anything around 30, I wouldn't worry too much about bringing out, meaning, you know, if you need recon, any of these units will do. There's slightly different purposes for kind of a recon attack, so keep that in mind. We'll step it up then to, I think we will save the Bradley for last. Actually, no, we're going to have to cover helicopters last, so we'll bring it over to the Bradley. Speaking of tracked and speaking of autocannons, the M3 Bradley CFV cavalry fighting vehicle, no, it doesn't shoot at horses, but it can fire TOWs and Bushmasters at Soviet tanks. So, the Bradley CFV, armed with 12 heat TOW missiles and its 25mm Bushmaster with 900 rounds, incredible. for 75 points, this could hold an entire sector if you really wanted it to. If you can see the enemy and shoot at them and they can't shoot back, guess who's not going to advance until they find out what the hell is there. And if you have one of these plus a couple other Bradleys brought forward from an earlier drop-off of troops, you can definitely piss the enemy off and scare them out of an area, or at least deny them. Keep in mind, it's not always about the points. Sometimes you want to intimidate the enemy, and so with the M3 Bradley, you definitely can keep the enemy back, or at least make them spend a little bit more points or pay more attention to a sector you've got locked down and lure them into a trap. The M3 Bradley CFV, very good recon unit, and made in 1981, so keep in mind those years too. You won't get this if you're picking a pre-80s or pre-75 deck, so keep that in mind. All right, finally, a kind of a step back in time is the M551 ACAV 1968 here. This is basically the Sheridan that I was telling you about in the tank episode, with no autocannon and but increased speed. Good accuracy on the, and no ATGM either. No autocannon, no ATGM. Well, it didn't have an autocannon before, but you basically just have your main cannon and your M2 Browning. This could be really good for stopping enemy units that are just moving out in the open, enemy infantry. So keep that in mind. Made in 1968, so you'll be able to get this no matter what. It's got some good armor on it too, and speaking of two, it's got 2 armor everywhere except for the top. So this could definitely take a beating from artillery or bombing, and so long as you keep it on the move, you should be able to see. By the way, good optics, good optics. All of these, I believe, have good, very good, or exceptional. I would vote for very good or above, but again, you don't want to spend 75 points on the Bradley. You may want to spend the points on the ACAV, because that's going to hinder enemy units from moving forward again. All right, we've covered everything except for helicopters, and helicopters are very important here. The Kiowa from the United States Army here. This one is mounted with a single M134 minigun. The Kiowa step up from that is armed with a Browning and FFAR area of effect 70 millimeters, and the biggest and baddest of them all has a peekaboo unit on the top there. Very cool, very nice 1985 based scout radar type of optical sight on top of it that can really see far. It's very small, exceptional, high speed, but easy to die. It also has Hellfires, which means if you see a T-80U, you can keep firing at it all day, so long as you can't be hindered. You get 4 missiles, so keep that in mind. Prices here are very different. I would recommend just the basic Kiowa if you're just going to be doing some scouting. I'd skip the 58D unless you've really got some type of... it does have exceptional optics, so maybe you would want to switch up to that one. It doesn't have the minigun, but who cares? It actually is pretty good. The first is made in 74, the second in 83, and the last in 85. So again, if you're going pre-80s, the only one you're going to be able to get is the OH-58C, which is this one here. So you can spend a few more points on better optics. There's no difference in the last two other than weaponry. And the only difference between the first two is the step up for about 20 points more. You can actually get exceptional optics with 20 more kilometers per hour. So that actually would be pretty good. This one here to go along with any type of early marine push with twin Hueys or something like that. You can definitely keep an eye out for everything the infantry or enemy has on the ground, and also aircraft. So that pretty much does it for recon. Again, the Kiowa is great to sneak around to kill enemy commands with the ATGM. The Hellfire here is very accurate, 14 accuracy and 26 AP power. Hopefully it's able to kill more than just a Scot. Who knows? All right, but anyway, some really cool, weird-looking stuff on the front of it, too. Those are avionics and radar stuff. That's really a cool unit here. Really a nice-looking helicopter, too. Good design. Don't really appreciate too much the looks of unit. I'm trying to zoom out here. But this one definitely is probably one of the coolest-looking helicopters. It's very small, which... I don't know. I think the British Gazelle is actually smaller than that, but this does have Hellfires, so what up now, bro? And it looks like it doesn't have any machine guns either. Some models in AirLand Battle have guns on them that don't work for certain reasons of programming. But that's it for now, friends and fans, so don't forget to tell a friend. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to share the deck spec thing on the forums and everything else. Again, we're just going over the basics of what these units have and what they can do. Again, we went over wheeled-based and ground-based infantry. We went over some of the tracked vehicles as well as the aircraft and some of the very small wheeled vehicles as well. Again, this can apply to the Soviets as well. This can apply to PAC. This can apply to anybody. So just keep in mind there's a lot of differences between these units, but the basics still stand. So until next time, friends and fans, this is Raptor for the rest of the Rat Pack, reminding you to keep the password and pimp hand strong. We'll see you. Bring the cornucopia of pain. Check out our t-shirt store, and check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Rat Pack. We'll see you. Bye.